Well, after a long, hot summer, the big day's finally arrived. Mad Monday for the AFL Women's. We're looking forward to it. This is the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour. I'm Sergio Paradise, and he's Titus O'Reilly, and together, I think we're the only two people in Melbourne who didn't go and see Adele over the weekend.
Possibly. You didn't get along. I had you pegged as a big Adele fan.
And has there been enough social media photos of it too? What I loved is all the people who are now photographing the black box that she's in.
She's secretly
coming. The box is getting mobbed.
Yeah, but people don't know. She gets weird because the stage is in the centre of the in the round sort of thing of the stadium, and around the country. It's been people wondered, how does she magically appear at the stage because there's no under the grand corridor.
It's not a high stage. Yeah,
and they said, they put her in this
roadie case with the wheels on it.
And that was a secret, and then it was announced.
And now the box comes out and the whole crowd goes up as one.
They should just wheel out dummy boxes. That's the way around there.
I couldn't believe I saw somebody put a video and there's hundreds of people videoing the box on their phones as it goes down the aisle. Really? Could you just wait till she comes out?
That's so great. And someone at work pulls you over and says, have a look at this. Yeah. And you go, it's footage of a box. You go, Adele's in there.
Yeah.
And you go,
I saw Adele on Saturday night.
Can't see her in the box. It's still just a box.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's like Schrodinger's cat. Yeah. Is Adele alive in the box or not? You don't know.
Well, she reckons she sits in there with her iPad playing games.
Oh, right.
That's what Adele says.
So she's like a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Can't keep her from getting distracted.
But from all reports, there were two pretty special shows and over 150,000 people at Etihad.
Oh, she's huge. She's as big as they get.
18 games. Yeah. Football matches at Etihad.
Well, she's just top GWS's total attendance in their whole 5-6 years. We should add that we got a bunch of questions that came in.
We did.
Or not questions, but people alerting us. Sarah Black is an example, but I had a lot of people telling me this around the country too, as Adele toured, that she's been firing T-shirts into the crowd using a T-shirt cannon. And Sarah Black said Adele just sent a T-shirt into the first tier of the locket end at Etihad Stadium from the centre of the ground. Is she in trouble?
Well, much. She actually, in her first show on Saturday night, had a real hard crack at the Victorian government because she's been using one of those big super-duper T-shirt cannons everywhere else around the country. But because she's in Melbourne, the nanny state, she's not allowed to use the T-shirt cannon.
They're illegal.
But obviously, she just turned her nose up, thumbed her nose at authorities, pulled out the T-shirt cannon, and that's a fair whack from the middle of Etihad up to the top deck of the first deck of the locket end.
Arrested Adele for firing a T-shirt cannon.
They put her back in that box and whip her straight off the stage.
Well, that's how she's escaped prison. They would wheel her out in a box. But this is the thing.
You'd love to see her get up, the cops arrest her.
Oh, mid-concert.
Mid-concert.
And then there's all these 56-year-old people rioting. It would be like the darts.
They'd pick up those because around the stage there were all those white plastic chairs that the Australian.
I tell you what, the police wouldn't have got out of there alive.
But I would love to have seen them pepper spray her and maybe taser her.
I reckon she could take a few of them.
Yeah,
I like
would.
Adele. She's tough.
She's tough. She's got a filthy mouth on her.
Yeah, she's very so it's been interesting, everyone telling us about those. It is crazy that Melbourne, we've talked about it before, but the fact that in Melbourne, in Victoria, a T-shirt cannon is in the same category as a mortar.
Exactly.
Legally.
Look, the one thing that in its favour, this law, is that all the carjackings and home invasions that are going on now, not once has a T-shirt cannon been used to rob somebody's house.
So
the law's working.
Well, that's right. It had never happened before either, but we don't know that we weren't on the cusp of a spate of them.
Just don't give them a chance by banning T-shirt cannons.
I was held up at T-shirt cannon point.
Yeah, just leave the
So well done, Adele. Maybe Adele's just she's been listening to the podcast and decided, I'm joining this crusade.
She is the poster child for T-shirt cannons now.
We should mention last week, I forgot.
Oh, well, you both forgot.
There's a bit of admin we got to do, Serge. Well, yeah, but I it's all about accountability in our team.
Okay.
And I forgot.
The buck stops with Titus.
No, well, sometimes it's some of your jobs and some of mine.
Yeah, okay. Do you want another coffee?
Yeah, well, I'm the one that makes the coffees.
Yeah, you do. It's not bad this morning.
Job taught me that. Now, we should say I forgot to announce the T-shirt winner last week.
Yes.
Which I felt awful
We
about.
were alerted to that fairly shortly
afterwards. A few people pointed out we didn't. So thank you for keeping us accountable. Rodney Rumpel was the winner. He asked, what space-age technology will Elon Musk use to fix Carlton?
It was a good question.
So, Rodney, I'm going to send you a note asking for your address and your size, so we'll get that out to you. Now, interestingly, someone sent me, and I meant to show you before the show started, but I forgot, again, because my memory is failing.
Your accountability needs looking at.
A friend of mine was at I think it was down Aries Inlet Way.
Yes.
There was a like a music festival.
Yeah.
Down there, and they were sitting there getting ready to watch it, and as they're sitting there, the roadie comes on, starts getting everything ready, and wearing a Titus and Sergio variety hour T-shirt.
Right?
Yeah. So for people who don't believe we actually send these out.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah. So they were like, "You're famous." I'm like, well, I don't know if that's
not exactly Dave Grohl wearing it at Glastonbury.
That's right.
But Aries, we'll take that.
Yeah, I was more just amused.
Yeah,
someone's worn it outside.
Yeah.
I thought people were just using them to clean up spills.
You can wash the car.
That's right. Now, we should also thank all our supporters. Gold supporters get sent a T-shirt.
They do.
And if you go on to our TitusO'Reilly.com to the supporter tab, you can follow us and give us some money on a monthly basis, and supporters get sort of benefits. They're friends with benefits, Serge.
Oh, that's just...
Well, is that going to make me turn people away? I don't know if that's such a great offer.
It's not the Tinder kind of friends with benefits.
No, not Tinder friends.
Yeah, but you do. You get, there's various things you can get. So, but the good thing about our supporters and pledging a small token amount of dough each month, it allows us to, as you say, stay independent, keep doing this, and put some other things together, and save up for an Adele ticket next time she's here.
And also helps us be able to keep stuff out from behind paywalls and stuff like that, which everyone always complains to me when that happens.
Yeah.
So I've listened.
Everyone hates a paywall, except the AFL.
They just love getting money.
Yeah, it's just income for them.
So there's the winner. Rodney Rumpel's the winner. We'll send him one. Now, we've got two stories up front, Serge.
Yeah, we do.
That I call our honouring women stories, and just showing what great blokes sportsmen are.
Yeah, just what great blokes can be as a general rule.
That's right. The first one comes to us from South Africa. Do you like South Africa?
I don't like South Africa.
South Africa, the Free State Stars, this was in soccer/football, depending on what you want to call it, depending on who you want to offend.
Yeah.
Now, Muhammad Anas, a soccer player who got Man of the Match award in this game, the Free State Stars were playing. It was in a draw, 2-2, but he still got Man of the Match. He was giving his post-match interview as Man of the Match.
Right, to the commentators.
To the commentators, live on TV. And he accidentally thanked his wife and his girlfriend in the speech.
In the one sentence.
Yeah.
No,
he said, I appreciate my fans and my wife and my girlfriend, before pausing and realising he slipped up. I'm so sorry, my wife. I love you so much with my heart.
Yeah.
What does he love his girlfriend with, I wonder?
Oh, Muhammad, you're... Couch last night. You reckon Muhammad spent the night on the couch?
Oh, I think so. Well, whose couch? That's the real question.
Tell you what, you wouldn't get Muhammad to do your best man speech at your wedding, would you? You should have been at the Bucks night. It's okay. It was all just in good fun.
So that's not a good effort.
No, it's not.
Have you ever accidentally thanked your wife and your girlfriend on the podcast? I can't remember you ever doing that. No, I've never had two simultaneously, I've got to say. Not as good as Muhammad. You've always put them in a sequence.
One or the other is easiest.
It does sound like a lot of effort having a wife and a girlfriend. Whenever I read these stories, I just think, where do these people find the time?
Oh, and the sheer gall to consider doing it and not get caught. I just know I would stuff it up.
You and I would get caught.
Subterfuge is not out,
if you put the morals aside, of it. And if you didn't care about
that's a given, putting them on.
Oh, yeah, well, you and I do that easy, but it's the time factor and your point, the knowing you just stuff up.
Oh, to be under that much pressure to keep something hidden, you'd blow it for sure.
Yeah. Oh,
maybe not as badly as Muhammad did on national television, but I reckon, if you've got both, you're just on hiding to nothing.
No, I think it's just it's overreaching. Men are not good at multitasking.
No.
And this is a good example of it. Now, this is one that puts into, this isn't a funny story at all. This more fits into our shocked at. We always talk about how shocked we are at, if you're good at sport, what you can actually get away with. And you used to say that I think Charles Manson, if he was a footballer, would have been allowed back into the game. Or no, Ivan Milat was your favourite one.
Yeah.
You used to say if Ivan Milat was a sports footy star in his youth, he'd probably be still talked about as a good bloke. That's how far they go on these things.
Yeah, if they let him out of jail, he'd be running Auskick.
Yeah. And I used to think...
Maybe taking it a bit far.
Might be a bit far, but maybe not Auskick, just VFL. But I used to think, Serge is over-egging it in talking about this. Until I read this, you found this. Brazilian goalkeeper Bruno Fernandes de Souza has agreed to a 2-year deal with second-tier club Boa Esporte in Brazil, the team has announced. It was just a month after he was released from jail for ordering the torture and murder of his ex-girlfriend, who was also the mother of his child. He was allowed to walk from prison last month, 15 years before his sentence is up, because the case is being appealed.
Right.
So he gets out because of that. Now, it turns out this ex-girlfriend of his that he ordered the torture and murder of, which I won't go into all the details because that's quite horrendous, she came and asked him for some money to support
child
his kid,
support,
the child support they're going to have, and that's what he did. Now, he's then been signed by a club.
Yeah.
He's probably going to, if the appeal fails, he goes back.
He goes back into the big house.
Can you believe that?
Well, it is hard to believe.
That's just
he's a
staggering.
goalkeeper. Obviously, not much gets past him.
It's just unbelievable. That just pales to anything like... It makes all the AFL ones that we bag all the time for their terrible mismatches, which are still terrible, but... How can a club re-sign someone?
This is literally getting away with murder.
Yeah.
That's just a phrase you use.
But the thing is, he could go back in.
Yeah.
It's just, this is the appeal.
How
do you get let out? No, he's out on it because they're appealing.
Yeah.
How do you get out?
Don't know.
And then
But he did come out.
But then the club signs him.
I don't know if you saw it. Just this morning, he was quoted. He came out, because there's been a bit of an outcry, obviously, not just us pointing it out, but...
It goes beyond the variety hour,
and actually, in his home country of Brazil, they've taken this seriously. But he came out this morning, and here's the quote. I scribbled down the quote. I saw it this morning. He goes, "I made a mistake. I'm not a bad guy." It's a fair mistake. Torture and murder of your girlfriend, and having her body fed to Rottweilers.
It's not like a mistake like thanking your wife and your girlfriend after an interview. It's a few levels above that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like missing training like Hodgie did.
Yeah. That's a mistake.
That's a mistake.
It's just unbelievable.
The premeditated murder of the mother of your child probably disqualifies you from calling yourself not a bad guy.
Yeah, not a bad guy. Jesus, it's just unbelievable. It's quite depressing. But it does show how far we've got to go, and people kind of act like people bang on about this stuff for no reason. It's pretty bad.
So there's a couple of uplifting stories to kick off the show.
Well, the first one's funny, second one not funny.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to lift now.
Let's hope he goes back to the slammer.
Oh, yeah. And 15 years.
Yeah.
Bit longer than that, won't you think?
You would have thought so.
Gee, we're suddenly sounding like talkback radio, calling for bigger sentences.
Yes. Well, this is Ray Hadley and Alan Jones.
Come in, caller. Go ahead. We'll go to our next caller who's not happy about electricity prices.
Don't get me started on that D-cell plan.
Now Tony Lockett, plugger.
Yes.
Is
great
back
man.
In Sydney working for the Sydney Swans. He's decided to come back to help them. I think it's in a training role. They haven't really gone into it. They were a bit vague on what he'll actually be doing.
Yeah, but it was, and so you would be. I think Sydney have been at him for a while.
Wanting him to come back.
And he's ummed and ahed And he's finally said, yeah, all right, I'll come back. And I don't think they've quite got the specific role for him, but you'd have him back just anyway.
He went around. He went off. He was into the Greyhounds for a long time.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He got out of the Greyhounds for some reason.
I remember once they got banned in New South Wales, he needed a gig.
But they're now not banned.
I know
they've backflipped.
They're backflipped. Yeah.
Well, not the Greyhounds haven't backflipped. The banners.
You can't train them with live
terrible.
rabbits anymore, but
But
that's the nanny state for you.
He's come back because apparently what he's been doing is he's into enduro motorbike racing, which is really long, like halfway around Australia motorbike,
thousands of kilometres
on your motorbike, and it's made him lose a lot of weight. So if people saw the photos of him, he's as skinny as it comes. Like he looks ill, but apparently it's all from doing it, which I can believe. All this enduro.
The first
motorbike.
photo, I thought, geez, Peter Garrett's kept me in good nick for the Midnight Oil reunion.
He does look that skinny. It's quite, Now apparently, Andrew Pridham, who's the president of Sydney, said he fell back in love with the game and expressed his desire to get involved in coaching. He thought he had something to contribute. I spoke to John Longmire and Tom Harley, and they were both very interested in pursuing it. Now, what I don't get is how can anyone fall out of love with our great game, Serge? That always baffles me.
Yeah, especially when it's, he's been so he's actually an official legend of the game.
Well, a lot of players do fall. That's the funny thing. Fans don't really fall out of love with the game very easy, but players seem to quite a lot.
They do when their careers are over.
Oh, and I think it takes a toll. Pretty easy to sit on the couch drinking beers watching it, but running, I think
actually having to do it. Go to training 5 times a week.
No, doesn't sound good at all. But he has lost all this weight. So Darren wrote in, why can motorbikes make Tony Lockett skinny, but 15 full pre-seasons can't? Is the AFL missing something really simple here? I think that's the way to train them.
I'll tell you what, the players would be happy with that.
Just jump on a motorbike?
Forget 3 months of running and weights and doing all that stuff. Just jump on a bike, drive to Cairns, drive back. You'll be in perfect nick.
Nothing safer than riding a motorbike either.
You reckon that's what 700 AFL footballers on high-powered motorbikes simultaneously driving around Australia as a fitness
There's a reality
routine.
TV show.
Oh, you get Peter Dixon onto that.
Oh, now many would come back. Not a lot. That would be a problem. Now, you and I have been watching the cricket over the last few weeks, and I got to say, my dislike of DRS, the review system of cricket, I think I just think it adds nothing to the game. I think it's as often wrong, especially when they use. I can understand it being used for maybe a catch, seeing if the ball hit, but that LBW one where it predicts where the ball is going. Yeah, to me, that whole system is just you either have to fully believe in the system. Which I know is not 100% accurate, and that's what people say. Well, you don't rely on it at all.
It's like the Hawkeye in tennis.
Yeah, but you get ones where, but it's even different to that because it's like a Hawkeye in a way, but if the umpire has said it's not out, and it shows it half hitting the bail, it's still given not out because it's inconclusive, it said. But if the umpire's given it out and it's in the exact same spot, then it would be out, So it's just so it's back to where the umpire ever called half the time. So it's just to me, I just don't see the point of it at all.
It
wastes time, and
it seems to be half the players don't quite understand how to
and they don't
use
seem to actually. They don't seem to actually. No one seems to have any faith in it, really. It's kind of, to me, it's an incredibly stupid system, and the game was better without it. Because sure, there were mistakes, but this hasn't stopped that. Well, if its whole point is to stop mistakes,
but you listen to any old cricketer, not even necessarily at the highest level. They always say, umpires occasionally make mistakes, but it was that whole thing. But it always evens itself out. Yeah. 1 week you'll get caught behind when it's come off your shirt.
Yeah.
The next week, you'll snick one and be given not out.
Yeah.
So it evens itself out. And it's too slow. It stops and starts.
But I just don't think it's accurate. Like, if it was really accurate, it's a bit like, there are some sports that tends to lend itself to a bit better, but I just don't think it lends itself to this sport particularly well.
And I hate the way it gives the TV network broadcasting the game the opportunity to put the camera onto the scoreboard for a fair while and put more ads up, waiting for it to spin in, out or not out.
Now, to show you that you said earlier that it appears to you that the players don't understand it.
Yeah.
This might be the peak moment where we learn that the players definitely don't understand
I was delighted when I saw this.
Bangladesh batsman Soumya Sarkar became possibly the first batsman ever to call for a DRS review after having been clean bowled on the fifth day of the fifth test against Sri Lanka. He was on 53 and facing only the second ball of the day when the incident occurred and had the opposition players and the commentators stunned. His judgment was off and he failed to locate the delivery from the right arm medium pacer, and when the ball clipped the top of his stump, he was oblivious to the fact and hung around the crease. So he thought maybe it was called LBW. So he had no clue what really had happened.
Yeah,
and everyone's like,
he's off
"You're
stump,
bowled."
Yeah, pointing backwards.
So he then just went, "Well, I'll just appeal it. I'll just review it." And then as he reviewed it, the Sri Lankans who knew what had happened, they just stood around while the review was pending, laughing.
They were just laughing. Yeah,
it was great footage.
And then he's turned around and seen what's actually happened.
Yeah.
And I guess, but he did still stick around because the only way he could have been saved is if the DRS had said that the ball had been no bowl.
Yeah, but that wasn't the reason. He just got confused at what the whole thing was.
Yeah, I know that wasn't the reason, but that was what he was thinking. That was the only way it would save him. But yeah, that is not what the DRS is designed for when you clean bowl, the stumps are broken.
I was always surprised Shane Watson didn't ever do that, but he just always went out LBW. He never went out clean bowled, so he wouldn't have ever been able to find out. So well done there. Yeah, great effort. Just clean bowled.
I reckon he'll be hesitant to call for it again.
You might want to give that a rest. Now the third test, we've got into, day 5 today.
Yeah.
As we record this, and day 5 has not started yet. Yesterday was just a grind. This is going to be a draw in every sense, unless Australia collapsed on the last day.
I didn't see much yesterday, but every time I flicked it on, I just thought, this is the sort of stuff that doesn't kill Test cricket, but this is why people who are a bit on the fence about it just get bored with it. Totally. Well, the purists will still say this is Test cricket at its finest. But it wasn't even that.
The first 2 tests were exhilarating.
Yeah.
And look, the big secret of every sport, even when we adore the sport, is occasionally a game is really boring.
Mm.
You know, all sports can be boring.
In any sport.
And this was an incredibly boring day of cricket. Because nothing really happened. Like, the Indians just kept grinding out, run after run.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't any amazingly fast run scoring or anything, but it was just. And Australia looked like never getting a wicket. It just, those days when you're watching Test cricket, you almost know. Yeah. You just if a wicket happened, you'd actually be shocked.
What surprised me watching it is Lyon and O'Keefe were not turning the ball an inch. They were just bowling straight up and down pies.
Yeah.
And it surprises me the Indians didn't just put them over the fence. I mean,
I just think India were more worried about losing.
Yeah, I know that was their mindset. But batsmen as good as that should have been able to just put the foot down and just go bang, bang, bang. They could have been 900 yesterday.
Yeah, then they could have almost gotten a position where they'd have to make Australia chase a lot quicker than they did. But it was just... It's been really boring. So Joshua Foster wrote in, if you can, name 3 things more boring than day 4 of the India v Australia test match. I couldn't come up with any. I can't think of many more.
Off the top of my head, I'm with you, Josh.
Any movie starring Nicole Kidman?
Yeah, there you go. There was more
emotion. And then people will bring up BMX Bandits.
Yeah, I know they
whenever I point out.
But that's when she was young and her face could move. There's more emotion shown by that pitch yesterday than most performances by Nicole.
But I can't come up with 3 things more boring than yesterday. It was right up there.
Yeah, it was.
Maybe the Q clash in previous years. There's probably more of those.
I just like that phrase. The Q clash.
Oh, Herald Sun had an article yesterday, or maybe the day before, which was remembering the best of the Q clash. And I can't remember who wrote it, but I thought whoever they'd given to write that story, that was the editor playing a joke. Yeah. Go write us the highlights of the Q clash.
Yeah, I'm tipping it wasn't Mike Sheehan wrote that.
No, I'm wondering. Well, I felt like it was definitely one I reckon the reporter got given it.
Yeah.
And was like, really?
Yeah. Best of the Q Clash. No, it'll be good. Go for that. Yeah, people will read that.
Talking of the Q Clash, well, it involves the Q Clash because Queensland is figuring prominently in the AFL Women's Grand Final. So we now know who is in the AFL Women's Grand Final, which is going to be this Saturday coming up. It's Adelaide Crows and the Brisbane Lions.
Yep.
Now, the Adelaide were losing to Collingwood yesterday, and if they'd lost, they were behind.
Yeah.
If they'd lost, Melbourne would have got in, but they came from behind and won by like 24 points in the end. And they're the better side. So they
were the better side. They deserve
These are the two best sides.
I've got to say, the women's my favourite player for the whole season is that Erin Phillips.
Yeah.
Gee, she can go. She can just play footy.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not the only one, but she's the one that I reckon every time I've watched her play, she's just looked a head and shoulders better player than most of the others.
It is an interesting comp because it's so new. There are about 5 or 6 players that are just that extra level
much better
above everyone else. And Daisy Pearce is one.
She's one.
There's a few like that.
Darcy Vescio from Carlton.
Yeah, they're just. And Sarah Perkins yesterday was amazing.
Did she kick 4 yesterday?
Yeah, she was great. She reminded me of the old school full forwards because the game's a bit more like that, like footy used to be, That's what I mean. People complain about how footy used to be and they miss it. Watch the AFLW because it's far more actually representative of what it used to be.
Big, solid full forward who doesn't go too far from goals.
No, but can now
takes the marks, pushes the full back out, and then slot them from 40 metres out.
Yeah. She was great. So, anyway, the thing you'd think is that they'd have worked out where to hold the grand final, wouldn't you?
It's still up in the air.
We're recording this on Monday morning at about 11:30, so it could be sorted out in the next, few moments. Might have even been sorted out while we talk about this, but they weren't sure whether it was going to be either at the Gabba, which is not being used on Saturday. So that would be.
But the AFL saying,
they don't have a deal necessarily with the Gabba yet.
Come to an agreement with the Gabba. Now, is it that hard?
Well, I imagine Gabba want more money to open up than.
Yeah, but geez, just work it out.
Well, the Lions finished top, so that's why it should be in Queensland.
The home final,
Like the AFL Grand Final moves around whoever's higher up in the ladder.
They'll be playing in Blacktown this year, won't they?
Well, that's the thing. But they said that it's either that one option is there, but they're having a bit of trouble getting that. And that's the AFL have said to their credit, that's their preference. They would like that. I mean, it's going to be in the afternoon, so it's in the heat of Brisbane.
Yeah.
Then on... in the Twilight game on the Gold Coast at Metricon Stadium is the Q Clash. I believe it's the Q Clash before I go. I'm pretty sure it is. And so they could play before that as the curtain raiser. Now, having the AFL Women's Grand Final as the curtain raiser to Brisbane play Gold Coast Suns...
I can see why they're reluctant to compare the two matches.
It's a bit like putting, the Rolling Stones on... before a pub band.
Before.
You're definitely putting the headliner first there.
Yeah, you are.
You're going to see the better standard in that first game. So that's the other option that they play. So that's not...
But I think the AFL, they're not real keen on that.
But the other...
Probably not for that reason.
But if they can't get Gabba, then they can, I think, pretty easily put it on at Metricon because they control that a lot more. And they've already got a game on, so they just put it... Now, that's not as good for the Lions aren't going to be thrilled about that because they want to have... their women's team play
in Brisbane,
their home game. Now, the other option, Adelaide Oval said, well, we'll do it. Now, Adelaide came second, so they should, but because it could potentially end up there if if the other two fall over. So Adelaide sort of pick up. It's a bit of a debacle, isn't it?
It is, you would have thought they may have had this thought through before they actually played on the weekend.
Well, it's the problem of not knowing if you don't know where, and the A-League I think have had this problem before of when you have the like the Super Bowl in the NFL, they pick it moves around like every year, but they pick it like years in advance, so you know that's where it's going to be. You've got it all locked away, and the AFL is easy because it's always at the MCG, and same with the NRL being up at ANZ Stadium. So you kind of know when it's whoever finishes top, then you got to negotiate, and it can take a while to sort of know who's going to finish on top. So that's where their problems come in.
And to be honest, before the AFL women's season started, I don't think anyone was expecting Brisbane to finish on top of the ladder.
No, but this is the thing. everyone had these predictions of how the teams would go, and it's like none of them had ever played a game. I mean, we can't even predict the men's AFL, and we've watched 150 years of that, and then people turn around with strong predictions on the women's league, like they've got some really good idea.
Well, even before the season, they're all saying, like all their footy commentators, they all had to do their ladder predictions.
Yeah.
Like, really?
For the women?
For the women. Yeah, they did. Yeah, premiers.
That's where you know you're being set up, basically. I once had, I forget who it was, I don't think it was there or something, one of the media outlets said, would you like to join our, sort of pre-season predictions?
Yeah.
I was like, nope.
No.
Because I know nothing.
I'll steer clear of that one, Max.
That's just, all those columns is being bought up in 12 months to show what an idiot you are, basically.
Exactly. Having said that, Clayton Oliver will win the Brownlow this year.
You think?
You give it a shake.
He's very good.
Yeah. Good odds at 2 at the minute. Shoot, he's only played about 8 games.
Now, there's we also have decided today, as well as where in the world will the AFL Women's Grand Final be played, the AFL is also going to make a decision on a Twilight Grand Final.
They're going to make that call today, aren't they?
Apparently, yeah. Now, they've come out today, over the last weekend, I think Gillan McLaughlin came out and said it's important people understand that the decision on the Twilight Grand Final will not be a decision based on money.
Just like that moment.
Just stop right there, Gillan. I'm just going to stop you right there.
You could hear the tumbleweeds blowing through the...
Well, it was one of those ones where that was his opening bit, and I was like, genuinely, I was listening to it on the radio, I think, and I did want to just say, like, just going to stop you there, Gillan, before you get in any more trouble.
Yeah.
Because you've already said one...
See that hole? Stop digging.
Yeah, stop digging. And then he said, the only thing that's going to influence this decision is not broadcasters or sponsors, but only what's in the best interest of fans. And I just was like, you should have stopped.
Yeah. Stop there. Please stop now.
Well, see, I don't even know what his particular view is of it. He hasn't really... He's always been a bit vague on what it should be.
Yeah. And that's probably smart from you. Well, see, Demetrio, on the other hand, would have come out and just...
He didn't ever want it.
I know he didn't ever want it.
There's one thing I actually agreed on with Demetrio.
But the one thing with Demetrio is he would, what he stood for and what he liked and what he didn't like, pretty much. And he was never wrong. It depends
what the view of the commission is too, but I imagine...
But they've been a bit bloody wishy-washy on the whole thing too.
I sense... I mean, Channel 7 want it to be...
Of course they do.
A Twilight Grand Final or even primetime, they would prefer. And the thing about the broadcasters is we often get annoyed that they put the broadcasters' views above the fans, and that was nowhere more evident than a few years ago when they had that schedule from hell that had Collingwood Carlton on a Sunday night in the middle of winter, and remember that one that was just it had the break before, like bye weeks everywhere.
Monday night football with Brisbane versus Adelaide.
Yeah, it was just terrible. And to their credit, they've sort of swung the pendulum back a bit towards the fans. It's not. That's the thing. You got to try and keep. But you can understand the problem with the broadcasters that the AFL do have to keep happy is if someone gives you $1.5 billion every 5 years, you tend to listen to them a bit.
They've got a bit of influence. We would.
If someone wants to give us $1.5 billion, we will probably we'll come record the podcast as you drift off to sleep in your room.
We would cave on every level.
I'd sell out so quickly.
So this was the thing
for $1.5 billion.
And Gillan said the other day, said, look, if it was about money, we would have made this a separate part of the new broadcast agreement.
Well, that's the only sensible thing I've heard them say, because I feel a couple of things. I feel, one, I have no interest in a Twilight. I mean, I'm not one of those people that's like, this is going to be the end of it. Like, we're all going to still watch it and we'll get used to it in 5 minutes.
It'll make a little difference.
But the day's fine. Day footy is better than night footy, I reckon.
There's nothing wrong with what it is, but I reckon that the Twilight thing, it's like being half pregnant. You either play it in the sunshine or you play it in the dark under lights.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I think.
It's just...
The Twilight's the worst
Twilight, it's still going to be light. So your pre-match of having...
But you're still going to have the lights on and all...
Having Sting on a tiny little stage isn't going to look any better at Twilight.
Well, this is what they're saying. The halftime break is a key consideration in potentially moving it. and that it's currently the idea of moving it is 50-50 with the commission to decide. And they're looking at, what the impact would have on the various lunches that happen and the breakfast and all these sort of things, because that has a big impact. Because it's a long day if you've got to drink till twilight before you even get to watch the game. Now, the thing is, he's saying one of the things is, would it be better for the people at the ground, basically?
Yeah.
The thing that bothers me about that, right, is the idea of having it, that I keep hearing, the main reason of moving it for fans or for others into the evening is if you have it in semi or darkness, the halftime entertainment, it'll look better.
It looks better.
And that's what the NRL do. But basically, you're still getting Sting with just fireworks around it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they're going to suddenly get Beyonce, because it's not like all these Americans, current day stars,
you're
are
not
going.
Bruno Mars with 200 dancers.
No, it's still going to be.
It's going to be the Living End doing a hit from 1991.
Yeah, and then some fireworks at the end. Like, that's the whole difference. And some lasers or something. That's the only difference.
Oh, they're expensive, those lasers.
Those lasers.
Yeah, they cost.
They do not work well in daylight, though. So that's basically it.
And don't point them at the eyes of the umpires either.
They get very upset. So that's basically the whole thing. Adam McLaughlin wrote in with a good point.
He's no relation, should we say, to Gillen or Hamish?
Not that I know of, but, he might be a bit of family.
Yeah.
Warfare being fought out on
the unknown McLaughlin brother.
Variety Hour. It's where they're choosing to settle these scores. He said the push for the night AFL Grand Final, and they're saying one reason that keeps being pushed is better ratings. Who out there doesn't watch at 2 p.m. who will now watch at 5 p.m.?
That's a very good point here in Victoria.
In the state, it would make a difference.
In the state, it would make a difference. I reckon there'd be people in Sydney and Brisbane.
Because they're just home then. And they're like,
they'll be home from their kids' rugby league and stuff like that. They might actually watch. Whereas 2 o'clock, they probably can't be bothered. But
so you think if it was at night time or in the evening, there'd be people up in New South Wales and Queensland who would flick around, they'd see it and then start watching it, and they wouldn't normally, and then they'd go, I thought this was meant to have fixed the halftime entertainment.
Yeah. I want to see the people from Sydney and Brisbane who aren't big AFL fans but would possibly flick it on for the grand final just to see an overweight amateur footballer win the halftime sprint. They made the right decision putting it on at night, haven't
that's
they?
Right.
Eh?
No,
the bloke from St Peters has just won the AFL sprint.
I much prefer it to just stay as it is because I can't see a compelling argument to change it.
Yeah, look, I agree with you because the later they start it, as you say, the drunker we'll be, and won't even see the second half.
Well, that's the thing. I'll be asleep. Yeah. I'll be passed out in the gutter. Anyway, now to note that the AFL, though, I often say this about the AFL, the AFL is the worst sporting administration in the world, except for all the others.
Just hold it right there. Yeah.
No, but I say except for all the others because as much as we bag the AFL, you then go, well, what's the alternative run sporting competition in Australia? Yeah. And who do you come up with? Not a lot.
Soccer? No.
Basketball?
Well, they haven't made too many mistakes the last couple of years.
Only for like 2 years, though. You look at the longer term.
Longer term, they were a basket case.
I mean, the NBL up to a few years ago had 30 different teams go through it.
Yeah, I know. They were hopeless. They're back on schedule now.
Well, but they had to have Larry Kesselman buy the whole league.
Yeah.
They had to have someone bloke.
Should have been Larry Sengstock. That's who it should have been.
Well, he was the CEO, remember? And then he didn't do much either.
He fell on his sword.
So we always say that about the AFL. They're terrible except for all the others. Racing Victoria have really put their hand up to be the worst.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're just not fine. We've got a great question, but I'll let you get through this.
So they pursued for years the trainers Danny O'Brien and Mark Kavanagh on these charges of Cobalt.
Excess Cobalt
which is a drug that I haven't taken a lot of Cobalt in my life.
No, it's not that common.
But this has gone on
circles.
How long? This has gone on for like at least 2 years.
A couple of years at least.
And
you got to point out that these Danny O'Brien and Mark Kavanagh, these aren't just a couple of blokes running a couple of nags out at Cranbourne.
Well, they've both won the Cox Plate.
They're both top line trainers.
Kavanagh has won the Melbourne Cup before, and O'Brien's won the Caulfield Cup. So, in terms of these like you say, these aren't like some of those stories we had of horses being on ice.
No,
that was sort of third-rate trainers or whatever. This is like pretty top-line guys. They've been pursued for this for ages. It seemed to be with a real zeal too of going out of their way to make Cobalt the huge issue in the racing industry and to make a bit of a name of these guys. Yeah.
And a lot of experts have been saying that Cobalt is actually not a performance-enhancing drug. So what's the big deal about it? And there's lots of people arguing over that thing, but the whole point is that Racing Victoria and their chief steward, Terry Bailey, they have had a good crack at Kavanagh and over Bryant and pretty much put them out of business.
So it's taken a couple of years, and it went to VCAT last Friday and was dismissed. Now, the reason it was dismissed...
Everything gets dismissed at VCAT.
Yeah, that's right. Like the, you adding on an extra big pool.
Yeah, all the thing is, if Danny O'Brien and Kavanagh, if they tried to put up a granny flat in their backyard, VCAT wouldn't have allowed it.
No, they wouldn't allow it. But they've said here the reason that they knocked this back and knocked it on the head, VCAT, they said that the drug testing that Racing Victoria had done to test for Cobalt had substantially departed from the requirements set out in the rules of racing, which is the rules that govern all racing in Australia, and left him with little alternative but to dismiss the charges against the duo. It also has significant ramifications for Racing Victoria because they're prosecuting a number of other trainers for Cobalt. It looks like they're all probably going to get thrown out too. Peter Moody, who's the man who prepared Black Caviar, he also had lots of these Cobalt inquiries, and he walked away from racing last year, disillusioned with his treatment for a separate case. So you've got this huge thing. Now, the other thing here you've got is the Racing Victoria have spent $6 million in legal fees pursuing this, up in smoke.
And after VCAT dismissed this on
$6
Friday,
million.
Yeah, I know. O'Brien and Kavanagh, they've come out swinging. Don't worry about that now that this has been dismissed. And that $6 million could well double or triple, I reckon, if these guys take on Racing Victoria now for costs and
any damages
to their reputation, to their businesses. I mean, both these guys have virtually had to halt their operations.
Yeah.
So
it's a massive stuff up.
You would think that'd be probably the best way to describe it.
It's a huge amount of money. Although you didn't think about it. If it was $6 million, the Essendon legal bill, which we know is big, that must have been huge. I've seen before some figures around that, but $6 million is. But it seems here, Racing Victoria, they've had huge issues already with conflicts of interest and all sorts of things. Like at some point, racing really needs some people. They're one of these sports. There's no independence.
That's what we said last week. That's what I said last week. And this was long before this Cobalt thing came down through VCAT. Is that the problem that Racing Victoria seems to have is that it's all vested interests across the board. The three major racetracks are all run by three different clubs. Yeah. And they're all just pure self-interest.
And a lot of them own horses, and they have all sorts of...
the directors and whatever. I mean, on one hand, it doesn't make... It's no great surprise that someone who's going to be the president of a racetrack probably has a fairly good interest in horse racing and may own a couple of horses. I mean, that's no great shock. But should it be that there's one overriding authority that doesn't have to negotiate with the three racing clubs, but just says, hey, boys, this is what's going on, right? This is how it's going to be. We're not moving the Melbourne Cup. I know they've already put that one to bed. Yeah. We're not making the Caulfield Cup a weight for age. This is what's going on. But at the moment, it's all over the joint.
The Minister for Racing seems to have had to come out and do that, and it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Marty Pakula.
This is the scenario happening of what would have happened if the Essendon players had got off either at the CAS or Court of Arbitration in Sport or at the Swiss Appeal.
So this is what Racing Victoria's...
They've got to go to Paris. They're going to go to Switzerland. But that's what's happening. Like, imagine the bombshell would have been if, after all of that, Essendon had have got completely off. The egg on the face of...
But what if it had happened like...
But the difference is Racing Victoria... the one thing where the analogy doesn't stack up there is the AFL always, and I know a lot of Essendon supporters kind of rally against the AFL as like they're part of the conspiracy to do over James Hird, etc.
Yeah.
But the AFL actually never wanted those players to be guilty.
Yeah.
Their own tribunal cleared them. They tried to do deals with Asada. They still talk about it, the players are all innocent. You know, the difference. So that's what Essendon one was. This one has been Racing Victoria really trying to go out of its way against these
witch
two
hunters.
guys. See, the thing is, it's been called a witch hunt, and you and I sitting here don't know.
No,
like they might, just because it's a witch hunt, like, these guys might have done the wrong thing. I mean, it seems to be the case that now they've been legally cleared. You'd argue that they either didn't, but it's once again fairly or unfairly to them. They've been cleared on a technicality that the rules weren't followed in doing the drug test. No one's actually saying, "Oh, there's no evidence they ever did this or anything." It's like one of those clear.
And the fact is that there was still
there
was still plenty of cobalt in these horses,
so,
whether that's the right or wrong
thing. So the whole thing is just a massive mess. But you wonder how long. I mean, it's for their chief steward, and I mean they've got an acting CEO at the moment. You wonder how long it can remain the way it remained. But can you imagine having to run racing?
Oh, it'd be the worst job in the world. Surely you've got all these vested interests.
It's more
your stars are the thing. You can't negotiate with the Horses Players Association. You don't have Paul Marsh coming out. You don't
even have Mr. Ed around anymore. It needs to be a good way to look. Me and a few of the boys have had a chat. Yeah, we want more hay.
It's about them whips.
Yeah.
You can shove those whips right up you.
It is like that, isn't it? It's a weird,
Wilbur.
It's a weird sort of industry. So I don't know, like what's going to, Ralphie Horowitz wrote in, how do blokes like yourselves outside the industry think Victoria Racing is going after another stellar week? The thing about Ralphie, Racetrack Ralphie, is he's always highly critical of racing authorities.
Yes. And
I've seen a lot of people sort of say to him, you're always critical. But they give him a lot of material. It's not like I think he's one of those people who just keeps reporting some facts and everyone gets upset at him.
Look, in answer to Ralphie, like how do blokes like us outside the racing industry think Victoria Racing is going after the last week? To use one of your own phrases, never been better placed. Couldn't be better. Everything's under control. Nothing to see here. It's all fine.
It's going very well.
We'll see you at the Autumn Carnival.
Everyone in Australia's about to forget about racing for 6 months. So,
it'll all go underground where it sort of spends most of the year.
Now, AFL Week 1, we've got AFL.
It's back this week.
It is.
For real.
Well, I mean, it does start with Carlton Richmond.
Oh, okay. So
starting on Friday.
It's a soft opening.
Oh, no, that's Collingwood Bulldogs Friday. So I'll just run you through week 1.
Okay. Do you want to do our tips on each game?
Oh, do we really want to do tips?
Oh, we'll do them for week 1.
We can do tips. We can do that. So first game's Carlton Richmond MCG on Thursday.
Yep.
So I'm tipping Richmond there.
Oh, Richmond are absolute shoo-ins here, which means to say Carlton may get up. But can you imagine, because everyone's written off Carlton, we haven't written off Carlton this season.
Well, I'm going to wait till round 3.
Even though you said they won't win a game this year.
Oh, no, I said that they're just gone.
They're gone. They're no good. They're disorganised. They can't play. But if Carlton beat Richmond Thursday night, can you see just the Wolves circling on Damien Hardwick? It'll just... I really hope Carlton get up just to see the hoo-ha around the Tigers.
There is no upside in this game for Richmond. If they win, everyone will go, Carlton are terrible, and they should have won.
They're expected to win.
If they lose or it's close even, the Knives will be out.
Yeah, they will.
And the thing I feel where Richmond are a little set up here is the fact that Carlton have looked terrible, but they also have played very junior, inconsistent teams. I don't think they're necessarily foxing, but they just haven't had their full squad out there. So we don't have as good a read.
Should be a better game than people expect.
All I'm saying is I don't think Carlton are going to be amazing or anything, but I just think we haven't quite got as good a read on them as we actually think.
That's true.
And last year, they were good for the first half. When I say good, they were fine.
A lot better than the year before.
Yeah, and then they had the 6 months at the back end where they
fell apart.
I still think they're too young, too many cast offs, but if Richmond, you're spot on. If Richmond just do a Richmond.
Yeah. Oh, the Knives. And I'll tell you what, the pressure, not just on Hardwick, Prestia and Caddy if Richmond get beaten or it's very close and those two don't fire on Thursday night, it'll be like, here we go again. Tigers, the high-priced imports can't go.
The big thing for them, though, is also the board. The board is,
completely united as well.
Well, they're completely, but they've been challenged last year, and they were lucky it was shambolic, the challenges from that footy first ticket. But then they've extended Hardwick for this season. Hardwick would not be here if it wasn't for them making that decision. And they basically have to go close to finals, if not play finals, for the board and Hardwick not to come under enormous pressure.
Oh, I'll tell you what,
they finish like 10th or 14th or something. It's going to be
8th is the pass mark for the Tigers. If they finish in the top 4 or 5, fantastic. They're back in town. You can say that about a lot of clubs. But if they finish 10th or below, I mean, 9th just means jokes, basically.
Ninth. If they finish 9th, the Richmond 9th meme industry, which is one of the largest industries,
will just explode
in Victoria.
Buy shares in it already.
Yeah, it does employ a lot of people. It'd be good to see if anyone. I'm thinking we're reaching the end of our talk about scarce resources. Original 9th Richmond jokes. We've mined that too.
If you can find an original Richmond 9th joke, it's worth a fortune on eBay. it's
an unused one.
An unused one.
Never been opened.
Still in the box.
Now, next one, Friday's Collingwood Bulldogs.
This should be a pretty
Travis
good game.
Cloke versus his old team.
Yeah, Clokey. The Clokey Cup they're playing for.
Well, I'll tell you what, Travis Cloke has actually got a good track record of hurting Collingwood. So it could be the difference here. You'd think the Bulldogs would win this.
Well, they are the reigning premiers.
You know what? Luke Beveridge did not give a rat's about pre-season. The amount of his top-line players who barely played is...
The reason, the Bulldogs should just romp this home. Purely because the jury's still out on the Collingwood back line. You know, they're not big enough. And the Bulldogs forward line could absolutely take them to the cleaners on Friday night.
Well, Travis Cloke could be a lot better at the Bulldogs just purely because of the different role they'll have to play and the fact that they've got other options, which at Collingwood. But at Collingwood, when you think about it, their back line is barely there. Their forward line, they've got Jesse White,
who's been their best forward over the community series, so that says nothing.
And Jamie Elliott's injured, I think, again.
Jamie Elliott's not playing.
They've spent a heap on Main and Wells, and Wells isn't playing this week.
And I don't reckon Chris Main will play this week.
Yeah, so
I reckon he's struggling to get in the 22.
There's almost $1 million in salary cap just not on the field. And then they're...
Darcy Moore's their only...
And he's young still, but he's going to be good, I think. But, apart from that... So I just don't see... I mean, their midfield's
They've
decent.
got a good midfield, Collingwood, but then so are the Bulldogs. So I just... The big end of the town for the Bulldogs, front and back, just should be too strong for Collingwood.
No. Saturday we've got Sydney Swans Port Adelaide at the SCG.
Yeah, Sydney easily.
I think you're spot on there. St Kilda versus Melbourne at Etihad Stadium.
Well,
are you going to get along?
No, I can't. I can't get along Saturday night, but
it's 4:30.
I know, but it's
I know what you've got on.
Yeah, it's like
you've got a gig.
I've got a gig. My band, the Scapegoats. We're playing at...
and this is true.
This is true. I'm not making this up. But I know it sounds stupid. We're playing at the Lucky 13 Garage in Moorabbin, which is a great venue. And we're playing... we're the opening act.
Right, for Adele.
Yeah. we're
Do you get wheeled out in a box?
We're like Jet at Bruce Springsteen.
The Scapegoats comes from David Warner's brother. Once tweeted that he was sick of everyone treating his brother like an scapegoat.
An scapegoat, yeah, exactly. It was one of those great phrases we thought would make a good band name.
It is a good band name.
If you are down Bayside Way, Saturday night, we'll see you at the Lucky 13, where the support act
Serge will be the good-looking guy on keys.
Yeah. Playing a keytar.
Well, I'm going to go along to the St Kilda Melbourne game.
Yeah.
To have my heart broken.
In a roadie's box, yeah.
Yeah, because it's at Etihad Stadium.
Which Melbourne cannot win at.
Which Melbourne cannot win. Adele's just performed on it, so there's going to be injuries
I hope they should leave the entire stage in the middle just to make it more interesting.
Do you know what? I would not be surprised if, this is just people always wonder why Etihad Stadium's terrible. Yeah. And then they hold an Adele concert
on Sunday
or
night.
Whatever.
I heard on the radio this morning, the spokesman from Etihad, they're relaying the turf as we speak today.
Right.
Monday.
Do you say that? He said we're doing it while they record the variety hour.
He did actually say that.
Oh.
And he said, look, aesthetically it might look a bit dodgy on Saturday night.
Because it is
but
dodgy.
It'll be fine.
Sounds like a used car salesman. Aesthetically, it doesn't look great, but it'll go perfectly.
It's a lemon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a dart if ever I saw one.
So, but you're tipping. Who are you tipping here? Because these are the two teams.
I know this is. There's two things I think out of this. I think St Kilda are going to probably win.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is just Melbourne's track record at Etihad and against St Kilda is horrendous. So,
correct.
So logically, to tip against St Kilda in this game would be foolhardy at best.
Yeah.
But I will say that I will do something I promise up front that I would normally not do.
What's that?
I won't fall apart if Melbourne lose this.
No. As
long as it's not 170-point belting or something. If it's just a narrow loss and we're not just stupid.
Yeah, you'll take that.
I think... Well, this year I think Melbourne genuinely... my theory on the AFL season is... And it's not an original theory, this is what most long-term footy fans know, is it's 23 weeks of grind. And you just need to pull together a few 3 and maybe 4 wins in a row streaks across the season, a few times, and you're pretty much there. So you're going to lose, and really all the AFL finals is now, especially for the bye week before the finals, and the Bulldogs showed this, is you just want to get your starting place on the. You just want to get your place on the starting grid for the finals. You just got to get in the top 8 somewhere.
Yeah.
And then you can really achieve anything there once you're there. So this round, the overreaction of round 1, if Melbourne lose, will be, this is.
Although we have just said that Damien Hardwick will be run out of town with pitchforks if Richmond don't.
But I don't even think. I don't think that's necessarily fair. And the difference there is Damien Hardwick's had how many years?
6 or 7 seasons there now.
But I think Melbourne fans are pretty getting, and I know this, we're getting pretty sick of losing at Etihad.
Yeah, and sick of losing to St Kilda. These are the two teams that are supposed to be the big improvers this year. Yeah. So it should be a pretty good game.
It's a good game. The next one's the Suns and the Lions, a Q clash. I'm tipping the Suns.
Yeah, Gold Coast will surely win this.
I think Suns could be good if their injuries stay okay. Lynch and May, they got the key forward. Lynch is going to be the best forward in the league within, if not this year.
I reckon the Suns are going to explode next year, like the Giants did.
I think they'll improve
this year. They'll be too good for Brisbane.
Essendon Hawthorn at the G.
Gee, this will be a big game. This Saturday night at the G. Essendon Hawthorn. There'll be a big crowd for this. How do you tip this?
Well, I was going to tip Hawthorn, but you're tipping in both of these the great unknowns.
Well, that's
because Hawthorn have got all their new...
They're new blokes.
But they've lost a lot. So they're almost a new team.
Yeah.
they've got the framework of Owen. Essendon are just, who knows? The question mark I have over Essendon is they're going to be much improved with all the players back, but also they've got some young guys that they've recruited, well, I think, Darcy Parish and stuff. But realistically, I just think they're going to get tired over the course of the year and they're going to struggle running out games. I could be completely wrong.
No, that's my theory about it.
That's my theory.
They'll have a good first half of the season and then they'll run out of steam. By about round 16, they won't win another game.
Also, Worsfold said he's going to prioritise, even with all the players coming back, youth over age.
Yes.
Which makes me think he knows that this is a year of getting the hours into everyone, getting the players that have been away back up to, I don't see, I think the club knows this isn't going to be but they beat us last year. They've got fight. I'll give them that.
So you're tipping the Hawks?
I'm tipping the Hawks.
Well, actually, we've agreed on every game so far.
Yeah. Well, round one's always we'll tip
the
like
easiest,
3. No, it's we'll tip like 3 out of 9 because we'll be wrong. And then North Melbourne versus the Eagles, but it's at Etihad Stadium on Sunday. The early game
again. North are the big unknowns this year too because they're
very young.
They got all these new blokes.
I'm tipping the Eagles in that one, even though it's at Etihad.
Yep.
They've got a young guy called Sam Mitchell at the Eagles who's going to be terrific.
Yeah, they reckon
very clean pair of hands.
Going to be a player and gets plenty of it.
Slow.
Yeah.
Wouldn't get a game anywhere else, my mate Wayne Carey says. So I'm tipping the Eagles. Who are you tipping? North or?
I'm going to tip North here. I reckon the Eagles are going to be right up there this year. But the Eagles, and they do it every year, they win all their home games and they drop ones in Melbourne that they should win. And I reckon this might be one of them.
Yeah. The Adelaide Crows versus the GWS Giants at Adelaide Oval. That's a good game on the Sunday.
Will be a good game. But
that's the afternoon game.
You'd have to stick with the Giants only because on paper there are no gaps in that bloody Giants team anymore.
It's coming in because Crows are a decent side though.
Yeah.
But I think Walker's a bit under an injury cloud with hamstring. So
yeah, I'm
going to tip the Giants too. It's a bit of a cliche. I mean, basically, why are we playing the season? According to everyone, they've won. It's just an expensive...
Just give them the cup now.
When there was the AFL launch the other night, and I half expected them just to award it to the Giants right there and then. So anyway.
The AFL will be happy with that.
I don't know if the AFL are.
Well, you reckon they've...
I think this is my theory.
Quickly.
This is my theory with the AFL, right? They want a competitive team on the Gold Coast and in Greater Western Sydney to attract fans and to make it. They do want that, but they also know, especially one this quickly and so dominantly. If what happens, they are like, it's not good for them.
No,
because once you become a team in the AFL and you're established up to a certain level, which neither of those teams are yet, I mean off the field,
yes,
then the AFL start to care deep down about, they liked the Bulldogs winning last year because it sent this message that anyone could win and it's still a grassroots game. Yeah. So that was a great story for the league. Last year will go down as a great year for most people. Where they also is they like the big clubs to be in it.
Yeah.
Because, Collingwood being in the finals is great for them for money and ratings and everything.
They'll be delighted if Richmond get back in there.
Yeah, Richmond. They would love Richmond. They would love Carlton to be good at finals again. There's these clubs that, as much as they do, that's who they'd really like to get up and go long into September if they don't. The Giants, for them, are only going to cause them headaches.
Yeah. If the Giants win...
It's of their own making.
If they win the flag by 10 goals... Yeah. It'll be Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, because not just the Melbourne sides. The Melbourne Victorian biased media and fans will all go, this is outrageous.
Yeah.
If they knock off a Melbourne or a St Kilda or something like that, who haven't won one for ages, and suddenly miss out on because the AFL's created a Frankenstein's monster will be the story there.
Yeah.
And then even the other, you saw a bit with Justin Lepich last year at the Lions saying, well, the AFL's given us nothing, and look what they've given to the Gold Coast and to the Giants. So you're even going to have the interstate clubs go, especially if they beat say they beat the Crows or they beat the Eagles or something, or Sydney even. The anger at the other clubs of you've given one club just way too many.
Well, they've taken off the AFL just took off a couple of their recruiting zones, the Riverina, didn't they?
I think I don't know if it's been announced, but it's been reported in the MA that it's they're going to.
Yeah.
So,
which means they probably won't get the top two draft picks this year.
The genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah, it is true. Horses bolted.
The horse is out of the bottle. If I can mix my metaphors for you.
The horse is out of a bottle.
The genie's out of the gate and you've left it open or something or similar.
The horse is out of a bottle of Cobalt.
We got it, and then the last one is Freo and the Cats, but it's at Domain Stadium, so it's over in Perth. It's the night game on Sunday or the evening one. Who's going to win that one?
Again, you've got to think Geelong are by far the better side, but they've lost some players, and Freo
got Fife back.
They were hopeless last year. They put the queue in the rack after about round 3.
And they sent everyone off to get surgery.
So now they're back. It's hard to even pick what they're going to be like this year, Freo. So
who are you tipping in that one?
Oh, I'll tip Geelong. I'll tip Geelong. Just because they've got the runs on the board, to add another stupid cliche.
I'm going to tip... I'll probably tip Geelong, yeah. Oh, I don't feel comfortable tipping Geelong, but I'll tip Geelong. But you know what they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't change its spots. That sort of works.
It kind of does.
It kind of makes no sense.
Trying to work that one into another
now, we've
sense.
got a question here, Serge, on this, and it's from the Michael Gunner, who is the Chief Minister of the Northern Territory.
Wow.
So
he's a variety hour listener?
First time listener? No, he doesn't say that. But obviously, this is an exciting time for us. I've got quite a few politicians from state and federal, various states and federal, of both persuasion. We cut across.
I've got a few state ones.
I don't have any One Nation following me I know of.
No.
But there's a lot less of them. But I've got plenty of
state parliamentarians, Labor and Liberal.
I've got the people that want to
bandwagon.
Yeah, I got the people that want to sell everything, and the people who want to save everything, and it's just.
But
I'm trying to think of
the one common thread is that they all love their footy, Titus.
It is true.
It is true.
Why can't they all just get together and come up with policies that we all like? I've got one.
Yeah.
We should stop the boats using a price on carbon. It wins over the left and the right. Everyone's happy.
We'll stop the horses too while we're at it.
Stop the horses. So Michael Gunner's written in, is it mandatory? Now, he's a mad Carlton supporter, we should say.
Okay.
Is it mandatory for Tigers fans to watch the round one match with a Blues mate? I think that adds a lot of the fun.
Oh, I think so. I really think so.
Because it's season over, whoever loses this. Isn't it?
That's
the reaction's going to instantly be season over.
It is. Look, I agree with Michael on this one. It should be mandatory because, and what they should have is like goggle box. We should have a camera beside the TV, watching this Blues and Richmond mate watching the game together. See, that's AFL Gogglebox. It's a new TV show idea.
That's a good TV show, actually.
Yeah, we're spectators from opposite teams.
Oh, that is a good idea.
Oh, you watch Channel 10 will do that next year.
No, we're pitching, Matt. I'll get off the phone and we'll go and pitch this to someone. Yeah. But it is good. Like, watching footy with mates can be the best thing ever or the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
I went to the 2000 grand final that we pretend didn't happen between Essendon and Melbourne. Yeah. And I went with 3 people I was mates with, and they were all Bombers supporters. Oh. So I was the lone Melbourne supporter. And if people remember that game, 10 minutes in, you knew it was all over.
Yeah.
10 minutes in.
They were by far the better side of the season.
I know, but it wasn't even, it was like...
You knew.
It was close to the worst day of my life. Not since the fried chicken shop closed down the road.
You didn't go to the 1988 grand final against Hawthorn.
I watched that from home. I didn't go to that one, yeah. That was terrible.
And again, even before the game, you knew Melbourne couldn't beat Hawthorn.
I've seen prison beatings that were more sensitive. It's just absolute terrible. Now, we should add just some news that broke last week. Bruce McAvaney revealed he's fighting cancer. He's had it for 2 years. He's got leukemia. It seems a weird one, this one, in that he was saying, in that it kind of, he's got it, but it's not really having a massive impact on him yet. It's like it could flare up, but it sort of hasn't yet from reading between the lines of what he said. But we wish him the very best.
One of the good blokes.
Well, I've always loved McAvaney. Yeah. I mean, there's times when I've thought in recent times he's sometimes almost a parody of himself, but he is light years better than anyone else they have. And I think anyone that grew up in his era has, he's still he is he's a true professional, which when you listen to a lot of commentators these days who can't even, like us, who can't even get the facts or the names right. He does stand out. So
I'll tell you something about Bruce, mate. And I've mentioned this before. Back in the 80s at Channel 10, he got very first job in TV, all working together.
This is you.
Yeah, me, Eddie Maguire, Bruce McAvaney, Steve Quartermain, Bridget Duclos, all working together. All just a bunch of young punks who couldn't believe.
You're such a name dropper.
I know. I'm a shocking name dropper. And you think of all those guys, every one of them's kicked on except me. But
hang on, what are you? This is
the variety hour. But even back then, and Bruce was a few years older than us, put in context. But he had the mindset then as of working harder than just about anyone else and learning more. And in TV terms, there are some on-air personalities that need what's called a lot of producing, which means you've got
a nightmare.
And you've got to feed them what to say and how to say it and what have you. And then there's the guys who you just let them do whatever they want.
Because
Eddie's one of those.
They've got it worked out.
And Bruce is the other. They're just so good. You switch on the camera and let them do whatever they want, and you just know they're going to be the best. And Bruce has been the best for decades. So, we wish him well. He's one of the ripping blokes of not just footy, all sport, basically.
Very sad. You just mentioned there, we've got to get some last listeners' questions, but before we move on to that, Stephen Quartermain, Channel 10's newsreader in Melbourne here, but also used to commentate the footy for years, and he's commentating on radio again this year.
Yeah. He's got a huge sort of history of
worked in sport all his life.
Olympics, he's done it all.
So we've got him as a guest this week for our second show. We're recording the next
catching
hour
up with Quarters. He's got plenty of stories too.
So that should be a good one to look at. Now, last few questions. Andrew Meadows wrote in, which was less surprising, Kyrgios beating Djokovic for the second time in 3 weeks, or Kyrgios pulling out of the tournament the very next day? He pulled out with food poisoning.
Yeah, I know. And he was due to play Roger Federer.
Well, people were saying, someone was saying, he had food poisoning apparently. So people were saying, if he'd played and pulled out while playing, everyone would have bagged him then.
Got him worse,
which is true. Yeah. It's just more that regularity that Kyrgios seems to find himself in.
That's the thing.
These situations.
It's the boy who cried wolf. He probably was very sick. But because of his track record, everyone just goes,
Do you think maybe if he trained regularly, he might not get sick so often?
Yeah, well, there's an idea. There's an idea.
Might be an idea. Andrew Stace said, GWS are undefeated in Super Netball after 5 rounds. So is it time to take the Riverina recruiting zone off them?
Yeah, Andrew, it is. It is. I know the Riverina is a hotbed of netball talent. But the GWS have got enough.
They've had it for far too long.
They have.
It's a disgrace. Undefeated. They could win the double in the AFL and the netball this year.
Oh.
Collingwood can't.
They could.
I've already written off Collingwood's football team, so they can't do both. Sean wrote in, it's an interesting question. Was Sergio Paradise the voice of one of the home hardware dogs? No, but he does look like one of them.
Yeah, I was about to say, I could, even a fully animated thing like that could have been.
Have you ever done some voiceover work?
I'll tell you one thing, and again, this is just such a wanky name dropper thing. When he asked about the home hardware dogs.
We should do a running count on your name drops.
We should. If I can't be bothered, but if anyone else wants to do so. And here's an idea. Have a drink every time I drop a name. See how pissed you get. Years ago, a guy I know, do you remember that very short-lived TV show, the Bob Morrison show?
Yeah, with the dog.
The talking dog.
Talking dog, yeah.
A mate of mine wrote it and produced it. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
Before it went to air, he said, look, we've got this show. It's going to be a dog who talks to camera and does all these things. I said, fantastic idea, Pete. And he said, you've got this gruff sort of stupid voice. Do you want to audition to be the voice of the dog? I said, sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I went and auditioned to be the voice of the dog and had to read the script and do all this. And then came back and I didn't hear back from him.
Never heard from him.
Well, I rang him a couple of times. I said, Pete, how did that thing go for the dog? Because considering I think you're starting to film it next week. And he goes, we sort around had a list. He said, the dog's actually a fairly cute little sparky white sort of terrier thing with a bit of zing around it. And you just sounded like a bloodhound that never got off the couch ever with big bloodshot eyes and drool coming out of your mouth. So,
well, it bombed in the ratings, so I think they missed the trick there with you.
They should have had a drooling bloodhound.
I would have loved to say and Sergio Paradise as Bob Morrison.
Could you imagine?
It was so good.
As I said. So, Quartermain, Maguire, McAvaney,
Bob Morrison.
And I got it. And I didn't even get the gig as Bob Morrison.
Bob Morrison.
But we've hit back with variety.
And that's why we need your supporters, because Serge missed out on that Bob Morrison money, and boy, would that have been sweet.
Oh, yeah. The residuals from 13 episodes.
It must have been glad. You must have been big. That's one of those things, even though it was a mate, the fact it bombed, you're probably like, we all like when something that we didn't get bombs.
Oh, we did. I must admit, about 3 shows in, I think, you know what? This ain't real funny, this show. This is a shocker. So I got the arse after 13 weeks.
It was known as one of the worst rating shows of all time on Australian TV.
Never kicked on.
Who would have thought a talking dog? Who'd have thunk it? Well, we're going to... So that's it for us today. I've got the second show for Dane Swan. I'll put the tickets in the link, but the first one I think is completely sold out. So the second one is still got a few tickets left.
April 8th,
April 8th, I think, on Saturday night is the second one. So
go see it. This will be
that'll
a good
be
night.
Fun. He's out of the jungle now.
Yeah.
And he said that he spent it getting drunk.
Yeah, he gave it a good go.
Yeah.
And the other great thing, when Swanee got out of the jungle, the first thing he discovered was that his credit cards had all expired.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And his license had expired. So when he got out of the jungle, first thing he went to an ATM in Africa and it expired his card. He said, not a single cent on me. He had to borrow like $100 off Julia Morris so he could go and get on the piss.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so it wasn't all fun and games over there.
Gee, and being in Africa, he wouldn't get the free drink cards like he would back here. He would have been right.
No drink cards in Cape Town anymore.
Well, that should be a fun show, so get along to that. If you can support us, please do. And thank you, everyone who signed up last week. We really appreciate it. And our ongoing supporters
Absolutely.
who are sticking with us.
Good to have you on board.
Despite Serge not booking the Bob Morris gig. We'll see you later in the week with Stephen Quartermain.
See you there.